Hello and welcome to yet another Cards and Cardboard digital review. Today we're looking at Talisman, the digital edition. This is the Steam version. I also have this on tablet. Now, not to be confusing, but there is also the Talisman Prologue game, which has the ability to basically be a smaller version of Talisman with kind of some solo player missions. In the full game here, the Talisman Digital Edition, you get access to pretty much all of the expansions that are available for this game right now. And as you can see, I have quite a bit of these because I am a glutton for punishment when it comes to these kind of games. What's really great is they keep coming out with some new characters, which give you different ways to play the game. There's a whole bunch of these, and then every expansion kind of adds to the game just that much more, and increases that replayability factor. Now, for those of you that don't know, Talisman is a game by Fantasy Flight Games, formerly of Games Workshop, where you are on a quest, one of the nerdiest quests of the realm, to basically go and deal with the evils of the world, or the goods of the world, depending on how you play, and ascend to the land beyond the century across the river here. I'm going to pause the game here real quick. I can't. Sorry. Whoa, okay. Yeah, unfortunately I get to see what everyone else is doing. Alright, so you're going to get past the century here to cross into another inner circle. Then you're going to fight the Portal of Power, where you will then go on the Plains of Peril and choose either to go versus the mines and eventually the werewolves, or the vampires, and go through the pit fiends, or go through the deserts and, well, fight death and gamble with him, then fight werewolves, and then go past the Valley of Fire to ascend to the Crown of Command, where you will sit on the Crown of Command's throne and punish everybody until the game is over. Or optionally another endgame condition occurs. Now this is without any of the expansions right now. Basically all four corners of the board kind of have their own little expansion that will probably be released in time. The complete Talisman game is very extensive. But this has one of the things going on for it. It is a old school adventure game, meaning that you are going to have to roll and move. Unlike The Witcher and Armello, which use action points or another system, this one has you deliberately rolling and moving. And you're going to encounter monsters here and go into combats with them. We're comparing our magical craft abilities right now. I've got a craft of 4, he's got a 5. I'm going to roll a single dice. He's going to roll a single dice. We compare numbers. Whoever has the highest wins and gets the rewards for killing somebody, which is usually the monster as a trophy. You may also fight your fellow players, which is a good way of stealing stuff from them or trying to just kill them off and hinder them in any way. Depending on how brutal you play, there's rules to say that basically when a person dies, they are dead, and they have to pick a new character, or they just go back to their start space with no equipment and such. So, yeah, this is just your standard adventure game. This is probably the granddaddy of them all. You know, you roll dice, you go around the circle, you try to gain more equipment or people, and try to finish the game here. Oh, I can look at everybody, but can I actually interfere with the game? Yes, I can. I'm going to go into advanced options and increase that AI speed, which is so important. Now, there's an extensive number of tutorials for this, which is nice, but when it comes down to it, you've got elements of take that, roll and move, exploration, stat increasing, battle, and just some good old luck. There's a lot of luck in this. Getting the right adventure cards. See, now I have a follower, so yay, I can click on my cards and see what I have here, and see what spell cards other people have. Now, these little trophies here, what you can do is, when you turn in a certain amount of these, usually I believe 8 in total. You can increase your related skill by 1. So if ever I get a chance to, my next strength value will be 3. My next, craft value will be 5. You can also find ways to increase your life and your fate and your gold, which are all very basic staples of the game that are required for you to do things such as buy actions or buy equipment and, reroll dice, which that's what the fate number's for. So if you ever don't like your roll, you get 1 chance to reroll it. And I missed a turn. Why? I don't remember. Probably to do something with the miss. But, okay, there's a few other little weird nuances with the game. There's 3 alignments. There's neutral, good, and evil. And you can deal with certain characters or equipment in special ways, but it doesn't prevent you from, like, say, going over and beating the crap out of another good character. Which is, one of those strategies that everybody takes. Yay, another follower. I can carry more objects, which I do not have. Yeah. I'm not sure how much time I'm going to dedicate to this. But, if you're looking for the old school, weekend killer game, this is probably a good candidate. The Witcher Adventure card game, or the Witcher Adventure game and the Armello both have streamlined systems that kind of bring them to an end at some point. This one is kind of brutal and will kind of continue to punish you until somebody reaches that final space and actually ascends to the throne of power and dons the crown of command. Oh, did I also forget to mention, in order to even get up to there, you need to collect a special item in the game called a Talisman. Go figure. They named it after something. That's what all these little icons are on the corners there. They represent if the player actually has one of the coveted talismans or not. There's multiple ways to get these talismans. Usually the best is just walking around and seeing if you stumble on one. The other way being actually to go and complete a quest from a warlock in the middle section. Or in the... it's hard to explain. Okay, there's like 4 different layers of this game. There's the absolute middle, which is the crown. There's the inner sanctum area. Then you got this inner continent around that. And then you got the outer continent. And that's how you kind of decide where everything is at. And there's lots of little abilities and spells that will only affect certain levels of these. I do not want to go fight a dragon, so I'm going to go this way. I would like to go into a town, but I keep rolling around it. I found a cross. I may avoid killing spirits and just do it right away. Now, as you see, some of my stats have increased now because I'm wearing an item, which is great. So it makes me hardier in combat and a little harder to deal with, as it's very prone in this game. Just like Armello, once you are kind of targeted by computers or other players, they're going to continually go after you. Now, one thing I like about Talisman is because of its age, it's got a lot of expansions to it, which give you a lot of different unique characters to play around with, as well as different ways to win the game and how to house rule different things. Some of the unique experiences of the game are that with this implementation of the digital version, they actually give you little bonus abilities that you can equip at the beginning of the game that are going to help you out. These are called like relics, and they can give you minor things like starting you off with an extra point of strength or craft, or maybe give you a specific starting item at the beginning of the game. It's all very nice. I think the different win conditions are also nice because they allow you to fight like different bosses and such up here, or potentially like such as with the dungeon expansion that goes up in the corner over here. You can get to the end and potentially find a way to get all the way to the throne of power and don the crown of command that way. So it's more of a different way of getting to the end game, which is something this game really sorely lacks, in my humble opinion, is that if people are not objectively trying to go for the end game, the game does drag out, and it is extremely rough for that. And if people keep dying and having to roll new characters, that just gets even longer. So, just a little something to keep an eye out for with this game is, yes, it will take a while if you're not focused. But, you know, that's something that you can say of most games. But thankfully games like Armello and The Witcher kind of improved on that and allowed those to have their own little way of dealing with things. Oh, the wizard killed a dragon. That's something you don't see every day. I don't want to go to the church. I want to go into a town. I want to buy things. Oh, okay, Fountain of Wisdom. I get to increase my craft even more. And whenever anybody lands there, they'll increase their craft. I mean, thankfully there are ways of kind of dealing with the various conditions of the game and kind of getting around here. I gotta... See, this is the part that I don't like. It's actually got the swipe controls going on here. So you can see, like in the original Talisman, you'd actually put these little cones out here. That's representative. Whoever goes by there can pick one up. This game has that as well. It's just they don't give you the number, really, unless you zoom in. I mean, I like the game for what it is. It's probably the best adventure game out there for house rules, options, and, you know, sheer epicness. You can say what you like about a lot of these modern games. The Pathfinder Adventure card game and others have kind of this epicness, but they don't have the board element. Plus, you know, there's a big difference between a competitive and cooperative game, especially with these kind of games. 2 bags of gold! Alright, I've never actually done a review of Talisman, the physical game. I have had the pleasure of playing that in the real world as well. And I'll tell you what, it took an evening. Might not have been the best evening of my life, but it was an evening. But really and truly, again, friends are what make this game a lot better. You know, playing with the right people. If you're looking for deep, you know, components, or mechanics, sorry, that are going to give you a lot of options and a lot of choices, this is not a game for you. But if you're looking for a thing where you can kind of kick back a few brews and sit back and talk with friends and go like, oh yeah, you remember that one time you did that and you found this thing, and you just roll those dice and slayed like 8 werewolves and all of them were at max strength. Yeah, that was a great time. Oh, I mean, alright. The artwork in this game, it's dated. Like, everything about this game is a little dated. And Fantasy Flight kind of improved upon it in their ways by giving it some facelift artwork and some better graphic design. One thing I have to say is that thankfully they used mini cards for a lot of the things as well, which some people love or hate those mini cards. In the digital version, of course, it really doesn't matter. But at least this way I don't have to really worry about things. The only fiddly thing I gotta worry about is the timing of the spells, which, you know, playing spells on your turn versus someone else's turn and having these little countdown bars go on, especially when you're in an online game, can be kind of a pain. And that troll's losing all of his strength. Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, there's usually like a log that shows you what happened, or a chat. Yeah, no. Yeah, let's travel there. Come on. That's another thing. You know, I got this weird. Come on, more strength. All right. Well, I'm building up my stats really nicely. That's a thing. That usually doesn't happen with me. I'm never usually that lucky unless I'm playing a very physical character. So final thoughts here, because this game is going to take way too long to finish up, and it's going to be a really long rant otherwise. The digital version and the physical version I'm going to kind of judge on the same. I will make a few special notes there. So, going through it. Digital version. The artwork works. It's very nice for what it does. And you know what? I'm going to encounter space. Alright. The graphical UI is nice. I can understand everyone's stats and click through and see what their cards are. If it wasn't for the swiping, I can kind of go through and see what every little space is on the board, if it actually allows me to swipe. Again, this is one of those issues that's kind of hard with the graphical interface of the game. Yeah, we're just going to skip that. Alright, yeah, see, now I can actually look at it and get the information. Yeah. Could use a little work there, especially since it's more designed for mobile tablets and stuff than it is for the PC, obviously. Artwork, it's very good. It works out. I like the UI. We're going to go ahead and give that an 8. Components, I mean, it doesn't take much on your computer, and you can play it on 2 different devices. The save functionality isn't really nice. Being able to save a game and continue it at a later point is always fun, especially if you're just fighting AI. However, if you're playing with friends, you can kind of do this weird little pass and play, or I believe you can do an asynchronous game, or an asymmetrical version, which is not bad at all. I mean, for a game that's this long, you kind of need it, especially in this day and age. Oh look, he stumbled onto a talisman and a bag of gold. That lucky troll. I want that guy's talisman now, but I don't know how I'm going to get it. I could just kind of go and get my own talisman, I guess, with blackjack and women of ill repute. Anyways, mechanics. You know, in this game, the having to wait for spells is the only fiddly bit. In fact, this really makes things a lot easier to deal with RNGs and rolling dice, and, you know, you'll always say that it's unfair, but it is fair. Oh, hey, I can actually go into a city for once. Yeah, let's go visit the witch here and the enchantress and see what happens to me. I gain a craft. Awesome. I am more powerful than any wizard here. Which is kind of weird being a bard. I definitely prefer playing this digitally, unfortunately. And, that, you know, all the expansions that come out from Talisman nowadays are going to take a while to get onto the digital version. But I don't have to waste an entire table and leave it set up if I have to stop in the middle of a game. This is a very clean and elegant way of just kind of saying, okay, we're going to play this game, and we don't have to put anything away, we don't have to set anything up. And a lot of things are already tracked for us. So, I mean, based on that, it's a lot more playable this way. It takes the playability to 6. You know, 5 would be just an average game. Talisman is still kind of epic, and it still feels good. So that's why I give it a 6. Replayability. The replayability, of course, is high, but that that player count really kills it. And that's the unfortunate part. I don't want to deal with a dragon. And that really kills the replayability, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and give that a 4. It's just so hard to actually justify pulling out this game every now and then and actually playing it. I mean, mechanically speaking, a roll and move mechanic with some reroll options is nice. The original Talisman didn't have those reroll options. So the Fantasy Flight Edition is definitely the definitive, you know, edition that you want to play with. Unfortunately, you don't get a lot of like the old craziness that was in the game, like a Chainsaw Warrior and people playing from different eras trying to do this event. This is still very rooted in its fantasy. I will look forward to the expansions as they come out, because again, they're going to make the game that much more diverse and give you more options. And one thing I like about a game with options is that you can kind of pick and choose what's good for the time or what's good for your play group, and really decide what you're going to deal with. So I'm going to press my luck even more. I gain a spell. Awesome. Not the most useful spell. Final Thoughts, the app version. I'm going to stick with 6. 6 is good. The physical version, however, that's getting into 5 territory. almost 4 because of just the amount of time you have to utilize. And I don't want to cast a spell. Oh, I can only move in space. Well, I'll utilize that to gain some more strength. Okay. Yeah, I'll admit I got a little burnt by Talisman back in the day. I mean, it's not by default a bad game. It's just not a very elegant game. It does what it does very well, though. You know, it gives you a random chance of success. It gives you a very epic feel whenever you roll that dice and compare numbers and build up this character. However, with like permadeath rules and all these other house rules in there, you know, you got kind of some issues you're going to have to work out with your game group to decide how you want to play this game. And thankfully, a lot of those did make it to the app. I'm going to go ahead and save here and kind of show you. So I'm going to go ahead and quit. And it'll actually auto-save that game for me later on. Now, what we're going to do here is kind of just go into my collection. I'll show you. Oh, shoot. Never mind. I clicked the wrong thing. Play. So I can actually start a new game on top of that, and it actually saves game. So we got all these house rules here, such as random characters for everybody, the sudden death rule, race for the crown, which people know what that is. Basically, they can tell you what each one does in this little house rule sheet. No more lives, which is nice. When a player isn't at the crown command, he cannot heal or gain lives. This one is definitely great because one of the most popular ways to win the game is just to sit there and play with like this sword that keeps leeching health from people, and it pretty much solidifies a victory. Replacing Quest, Talisman Bloodbath, a bunch of other things, including the Grim Reaper and the Runestones. I mean, these are all the expansions that have come through so far. The Highland, the Sacred Pool, the Dungeon, the Frost March, the Reaper, and they all give you little details on here. You also have all these characters that are listed in here. That some of them tell you where they're from at least, and some of them you have to buy on their own. The price isn't bad. Usually they charge only like $1 or so per character, sometimes less. We're just kind of go in there and see how much they're charging. Like for the shapeshifter here. Should pop up a DLC screen here. Thankfully a lot of this stuff is dealt with through the Steam store. Yeah, $2 for now, but usually these things go on sale as well, so keep an eye out for sales on this game. It'll make it a lot better for you in the long run, because the game shouldn't cost that much, but when compared to the physical version, you're saving a lot of money on it still. But I do like these little runestone things here, so we're going to actually set that up in the house rule and say that runestones can be turned on. And kind of go back. Oh, yeah, sorry about that. And so I can actually choose these runestones later on here. I'm clicking on right now, but I don't actually think I have any on this one since I play primarily on the tablet these days. What I do like is that there's a profile here that shows you, where you're at on these leaderboards online, where you're at for achievements and different runestones that you can collect, and what character you pretty much main, if you're playing with a main character. And you got a number of goals that give you like little victory conditions and stuff to build towards. There's a lot to explore in this app, and a lot of it comes from the actual board game itself, which is nice. And they added a few features that are unique to the app as well that allow you to increase your play time and definitely your fun time with it as well. Now, if you're a first time playing this and you have access to this on a sale, definitely pick up the Dungeon or the Highlands DLC, because those give you the abilities to kind of extend the board, and you can actually see kind of a preview of all the new cards and characters you get. These are like the most expansive expansions, and they'll give you new victory conditions and a lot more ways to play the game, and even some bosses that you can deal with to try to get the Crown of Command, and that really is fun for me. Before I go too far, the physical version, again, the artwork works. I like the streamlining of it. We're going to just kind of follow the digital version for that as well. The physical game has a lot of components and a lot of baggies. They're all really good quality. However, they do take a while to separate and keep sorted, and shuffle. That's where the replayability and the actual gameplay kind of goes down for me. But, you know, the sins of roll and move, if you can get over that, you got an interesting little game of adventure and whimsy as you progress through this bizarre magical world and try to collect the talisman and go and fight the vampires or the werewolves and ascend to the throne of power and don the crown of command and kill your fellow players and ultimately become the uncontested ruler of the realm. Oh, that sounds so nerdy, but, you know, that's the kind of thing that a lot of us live for. Alright, so, with all due respect, I've been Benjamin Hernandez. This has been Talisman. Thank you so much for watching our Cards and Cardboard digital review. The game is available for about $15. A little cheaper on sale. Definitely hold out for a sale if you can. With that, have a good day, and have a good time playing games on Steam.